Here is the recap of the 8th season of Supernatural. Dean returns from purgatory, then arrives at a field and digs up human remains. He recites a spell, after which a vampire named Benny appears behind him. In purgatory, they became friends and overcame many obstacles to be here now. However, at this point, their paths diverge. Sam leaves the house where he has been living with a woman named Amelia. He returns to the cabin where he meets his brother. Dean learns that Sam wasn't looking for him. What's more, he threw away all his phones and stopped hunting. Sam asks his brother about Cass, and learns that the angel was unable to escape. At this moment, Dean remembers their first appearance in purgatory and how his friend suddenly disappeared, leaving him alone to fight the monsters. Soon, Dean listens to the messages on Sam's phone and learns that Kevin called him several times. It turns out that the prophet managed to escape from Crowley and desperately needed help, but Sam never answered. The Winchesters manage to find out where he went. In town, they find his friend Channing, but she claims she hasn't seen him. After waiting for the main characters to leave, she, being a demon, uses a ritual to contact her boss and warn him of Dean's return. Meanwhile, Dean keeps quiet about the details of his survival in purgatory. He remembers how he met Benny and learned that there is a way out of purgatory, but only a human can use it, which is why Benny needed him. After a while, the hunters finally find the prophet. Kevin tells them that the king of hell has managed to get hold of another stone tablet. Only this word of God is dedicated to demons. Crowley asked him to read the writings, but Kevin did not tell him the whole truth and, having managed to deceive him, ran away, taking the tablet with him. It turns out that it contains a spell that will help close the gates of hell once and for all. The trio decides to put an end to the suffering of humanity by destroying the demons. Kevin persuades the Winchesters to visit his mother, so they end up at Linda's house, which is surrounded by demons. Upon learning the truth, she decides to go with them to retrieve the tablet. Soon they arrive at the storage room where Kevin left the Word of God. But it turns out that it was stolen by a local thief who sold it to a pawn shop. When they arrive at the address, it turns out that the tablet was bought by a man who soon appears and gives Kevin an invitation to an auction. It turns out that he is the right hand of the god Plutus. He invites the guys to participate in the bidding. At the auction, a guy approaches Dean and introduces himself as the angel Samandriel. He asks about Cass and says that he still believes that he only wanted good, and that is what ruined him. Dean hints that his friend didn't make it out of purgatory and recalls his last meeting with him. It turns out that he and Benny found Cass and learned that his friend had simply run away, leaving him alone. But not because he chickened out, but only to protect him. Meanwhile, Plutus announces the start of bidding, and everyone present places their bids. However, the amounts turn out to be too high. When Plutus offers to buy the tablet along with the prophet, Samandriel tries to compete with Crowley. Nevertheless, neither the angel nor the demon can offer more than Linda, the boy's mother, is willing to give for her son. The woman offers her soul, and Plutus agrees. At the moment of the transfer, it turns out that Plutus's assistant told Crowley about the loopholes and helped remove the tattoo that protected Linda from possession. As a result, the king of hell possessed her, thereby disarming the main characters. A fight breaks out, in which Dean intends to kill Linda, considering it a good opportunity to get rid of Crowley. But Kevin distracts him, and the king of hell disappears along with the tablet. Concerned about his mother's condition, the prophet deceives the brothers and also runs away. With no leads on where to find Kevin and the tablet, the Winchesters take on a new case. Someone ripped out a runner's heart, and it soon becomes clear that this wasn't the only incident of its kind. The main characters decide to question an officer who killed a stranger 6 months ago. However, he just keeps repeating a phrase in an incomprehensible language. In the evening, he breaks a metal bar from his bed and tries to cut out his eye with it. A little later, it turns out that the officer wanted to remove his transplanted eye. The main characters manage to find out that the donor was a famous athlete named Brick, who died in an accident. Moreover, one of his organs also went to a second runner, who allegedly did not see who ripped out the man's heart. Soon another murder takes place, and the Winchesters decide to visit Brick's mother in the hope of finding out anything that might help stop the string of deaths. After talking to her, they don't learn anything special, and the main characters think she is hiding something from them. And soon it becomes clear what exactly that is. It turns out that Brick has been presenting himself to the world as a sports star for decades, and the woman who introduced herself as his mother is actually his lover Betsy, who, unlike him, is still aging. The hunters return to Betsy and this time learn the truth. About 1,000 years ago, Brick made a deal with the god Cacao. In exchange for eternal youth and impressive physical strength, he agreed to sacrifice human hearts twice a year. They met in the last century, and when Betsy turned 40, she changed her name and became his mother to everyone. After his death, his organs were transplanted into 8 people, each of whom unwittingly continues to fulfill the terms of the deal and kill people. To stop all this, the person who now has Brick's heart must be killed. The Winchesters manage to find the right person, and Dean kills her, thereby terminating the deal with Cacao. The Winchesters arrive at another crime scene, but cannot understand what happened there. A video recording clarifies the situation, revealing a loving couple and their friend. It turns out that one of them was bitten, and over time, the guy began to transform. He became strong and lost control of his aggression. His friend wanted to gain the same strength and even found a professor who turned him. As a result, the trio began to quarrel, and the friend killed his buddy, thereby provoking Kate's anger. It turns out that he did it on purpose because he had special feelings for her. Moreover, he decided to turn her and bit her. She killed him and edited this video specifically for the Winchesters, knowing that they had come to this town to investigate a similar case. She asks them to let her go, promising that she won't hurt anyone or attract attention. The brothers believe her and decide not to pursue her, giving her the opportunity to start over with a clean slate. While the search for Kevin yields no results, Dean goes to help Benny without telling Sam anything. He is worried about the vampire who has become his friend. The brothers split up, and Dean arrives at Benny's with blood supplies for his recovery. There he learns that his friend is trying to find his creator, nicknamed the Old Man, to settle the score for his death. Dean volunteers to help him, and they head to the vampire lair. On the way, he learns that many years ago, Benny met Andrea, which made him decide to retire. The Old Man and the others didn't like that, so he killed him, and the last thing he remembered before dying was Andrea's suffering. Dean and Benny sneak into the nest, but it turns out that the forces are not equal. Benny is captured by his old friends, among whom he notices Andrea. It turns out that the Old Man didn't kill her, but turned her, and now she is his right-hand woman. Andrea still remembers the feelings they had for each other, and helps him get rid of his handcuffs. Soon, Benny finds the Old Man and kills him, then asks Andrea to go with him. But then it turns out that she has already gone mad with bloodlust. Dean kills her and returns to the shore with his friend, where Sam is already waiting for them. He realizes that his brother has gotten involved with a vampire, and for some reason has been hiding this fact from him. Sam decides to clarify the situation and learns that Dean is grateful to Benny for saving him from purgatory. He reminds him of Amy, the kitsune who was his friend, but Dean killed her. He has nothing to say to that. Dean only adds that people change, and he won't kill Benny, even though he's a vampire. Now the main characters are investigating the strange murder of a man. A woman literally ran him over with her car, and after the incident, she couldn't explain how it happened, remembering only intense rage. Soon, her son commits a similar murder, and the Winchesters begin to suspect that they are dealing with a family curse. This case brings the brothers together with Garth, who now helps other hunters, just like Bobby used to. The trio learns that when he was younger, the deceased had been seeing another woman, who becomes the prime suspect. Sam talks to her and realizes that she has nothing to do with it. Now the only clue is the green slime found at 2 crime scenes. From Bobby's notes, the trio learns about a vengeful phantom spirit capable of possessing people and forcing them to kill those who betrayed them. It turns out that such phantoms appear shortly after their graves are desecrated. From the news, they learn of a similar incident in the area. The grave belongs to an unnamed soldier. The main characters break into the crypt and burn the remains, but the murders continue. It soon becomes clear that one item was stolen from the grave after all, and that is a penny. The possessed police officer gives the coin to Dean, and now he is going to kill Sam. It turns out that when Dean found out that his brother had not been looking for him for a whole year, he took it as a betrayal, which is why the Phantom was able to take control of him. Garth hits Dean, and the coin falls out of his palm. After that, he comes to his senses. Meanwhile, Kevin and his mother decide to create bombs to destroy demons, using a spell he learned from the tablet. However, they cannot gather all the ingredients themselves, so Linda finds a witch online and invites her to the hideout where they are hiding from Crowley. It turns out that the witch was the king of Hell's henchwoman and betrayed them. Crowley appears and kidnaps Kevin, ordering his servant to kill Linda. However, the woman is cunning and manages to capture the demon. The Winchesters learn about the disappearance of a 5-year-old boy and realize from the evidence that Crowley is behind it. While they are trying to figure out why he needed the child, Cass appears. He did not remain in purgatory, as Dean thought, and is feeling quite well. At the same time, it turns out that several other people have disappeared besides the boy, and they are all potential prophets. The thing is, there can only be one active prophet, and so far that's Kevin. It turns out that Crowley decided to play it safe and kidnapped everyone who could potentially read the tablet if the current prophet died. The King of Hell manages to get Kevin to talk, hoping to find out what Metatron wrote about. At that moment, Cass and the Winchesters find his hideout. The angel intends to kill Crowley, and the demon passes, trying to take the tablet and escape. But Cass breaks the message into 2 pieces, one of which Crowley steals. Dean decides to talk to Cass and learns the truth. He thought he had let him down by failing to get him out of purgatory, but it turns out that Cass let go of his hand himself, not wanting to return. After everything he had done on earth and in heaven, the angel believed that his punishment should be purgatory. Unexpectedly, right in the middle of the conversation, Cass is transported to heaven and meets Naomi. She is something like an internal intelligence officer for the angels. Naomi admits that she saved him from purgatory. The only way to repay her is to report everything that happens below. Cass refuses and learns that she has complete control over his will. The Winchesters take on another case, and Cass decides to help them. Now on the agenda is a man with his heart torn out of his chest, and a cartoon-style bank robbery. It soon becomes clear that other strange incidents have occurred near the sites of these events. It turns out that someone is distorting reality itself, but doing so unintentionally. The clues lead the main characters to a nursing home. There, Sam notices a photo and recognizes Fred in it. Many years ago, the man helped his father hunt and was a psychic. Believing that what is happening may be somehow connected to him, he suggests testing the theory. However, Fred clearly lives in his own world and does not understand what is going on around him at all. It soon turns out that the doctor at the nursing home is behind all the incidents. He learned about Fred's abilities and began to use his gift for his own purposes. Cass manages to transport the Winchesters into Fred's subconscious. The brothers persuade him to leave his world and help them stop the criminal. Soon they find the doctor and Fred kills him, then asks the Winchesters for help, realizing that in the future he will fall into a similar state again and could cause a lot of trouble. Cass offers his help, warning of the possible consequences, and Fred agrees. The angel says he will stay here for a while and monitor Fred's condition. Dean learns that Sam has decided to spy on Benny and has assigned Martin, whom they once helped in a mental hospital with Wraith, to follow him. It turns out that he caught Benny red-handed and is convinced that he killed someone. Dean doesn't believe his friend is involved and asks for some time to figure things out. Soon, he finds Benny and learns that his old friend Desmond has appeared in town, gathering a new nest and wanting Benny to be part of it. After being rejected, the vampire decides to plant human corpses around him to stir up his hunger, but Benny is not giving up yet. Dean believes his friend and tells his brother and Martin everything, but Martin is not willing to accept this. Meanwhile, Benny and Dean find Desmond and kill him, which Dean tells Martin about. He asks him to stop and find another job, because his mental state is clearly not okay. The hunter arrives at the bar where Benny worked. Learning that the waitress is the vampire's great-granddaughter, he decides to take advantage of this and lures Benny back to town. The meeting does not go according to plan, and Martin, threatening his granddaughter's life, intends to kill the vampire. But everything turns out differently. She calls Dean and tells him what happened. So he learns that Benny has lost control, after which he honestly confesses everything to Sam. Samandriel contacts Naomi, but doesn't have time to tell her that Crowley has captured him and is relentlessly torturing him, hoping to get the angel's secrets out of him. Naomi calls Cass and orders him to find him, but Cass will think that this is his personal desire, not hers. The angel flies to Dean and offers to find Samandriel together. That's how he finds out that the brothers have quarreled, because Sam gave him an ultimatum to choose between him and Benny. Soon, the main characters manage to establish the presumed location where Crowley is holding the angel. However, in order to enter the demon's lair, they will need explosives, for which they go to Kevin. The prophet gives them a list of the necessary ingredients, and Cass finds them. The angel also finds Sam and takes him to Garth. Dean is not happy about this, but still allows him to go with them. Having made the bomb, the trio sets off for Crowley. However, they do not make it in time. And through torture, the King of Hell learns from Samandriel that the angelic tablet also exists. Crowley runs away, and Samandriel confesses to Cass that he cannot return to heaven because he told about the tablet, and Naomi will punish him. Cass doesn't remember that name, and when Samandriel says that angels are being controlled, Naomi summons Cass to her and forces him to kill Samandriel, telling the Winchesters that it was self-defense. The main characters find this strange, but they can't yet understand what is happening. The brothers decide to discuss the situation about Benny, hoping that they will be able to make the right decision. So Sam decides to stay with his brother and continue fighting evil, while Dean calls Benny and tells him that they can no longer communicate. A series of mysterious deaths brings the brothers back together with Charlie, who helped them with the Leviathan leader last season. It turns out that she now has a different name and is actively participating in a role-playing game, playing the role of Moondor Queen. The Winchesters inform her that several other participants in the game have died under rather strange circumstances. The only thing they have in common is a tree tattoo. While the Winchesters learn the history of this symbol, Charlie is kidnapped by someone wearing a black cloak and an animal skull on their head. Under this mask is a woman named Gilda. It turns out that she is a fairy who kills people. However, she is not acting of her own free will. The Winchesters soon find Charlie in the fairy's embrace, and it turns out that her assistant Jerry was behind all the murders. It seems that he eliminated anyone who stood in the way of him becoming King of Moondor, using medieval torture methods. The Winchesters destroy the ancient book, thereby breaking the spell. Gilda and Jerry disappear, and the brothers decide to have some fun and take part in the Battle of Moondor. After a while, a man falls out of the closet in the hotel room and looks for John. At first, he doesn't want to explain what's going on. Then, the demon Abaddon appears. When the man fails to kill him with a knife, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary demon. Moreover, the stranger from the closet is their grandfather Henry. Remembering that he abandoned their father when he was still very young, the brothers have a lot of questions. Sam suggests that, having ended up here in the future, he may not have returned to 1958, and their father thought he had abandoned him. In their attempts to figure out what's going on, the brothers learn about the secret society of the Men of Letters, and that they are their heirs. Henry is outraged that they have not been initiated into the mysteries and have become ordinary hunters. However, there is no time, and Henry needs to understand why Abaddon is after him and wants to get the box. So the trio ends up in the building where the attack on the Men of Letters took place in 1958. A series of clues leads the Winchesters to a cemetery. They discover that there was one person who managed to survive the attack after all. Henry learns about John's diary and realizes that his son began writing in the very notebook he had once ordered for himself. He understands that he was unable to return to the past, and John grew up thinking that his father had left him. Dean is disappointed and furious because his grandfather essentially abandoned his father for the sake of a supposedly great mission. In the morning, it turns out that Henry has left, leaving a note saying that he will try to fix everything. Sam comes to the survivor of the attack and learns that the box contains the key to a vault with all the artifacts, scrolls, and spells collected over thousands of years. The old man gives him the address of the place and suggests hiding the key there, thereby depriving the whole world of this knowledge and protecting the information from Abaddon. At that moment, the old man's wife, who, as it turns out, was possessed, knocks Sam unconscious and kills the old man. Dean finds Henry and learns that he wants to go back in time to be with John. But this would disrupt the course of events, and they might not be born at all. Abaddon calls Dean and offers him a deal. She will give him Sam in exchange for the key and Henry. The man is not ready to go along with this and hopes that he can fix everything in the past, but Dean is not willing to take such a risk. So he knocks out his grandfather and goes to the agreed location. In the end, they trick the demon, and Henry shoots the Hell Knight with a bullet with a devil's trap, but he himself is wounded. Abaddon is eliminated, and Henry dies, saying that he is proud of them and of his son who raised them. The brothers find sanctuary with the men of letters and decide to settle there. Soon they take on another case after Sam finds a whole file on rabbis in the Men of Letters archives. It is a secret society that existed even during World War II. The Men of Letters have little information about them, but they manage to find out something. After looking up the names of the rabbis, Sam finds Isaac, who literally burst into flames in front of dozens of people just a couple of weeks ago. The Winchesters decide to interview the witnesses, and Dean notices a guy who is watching him closely. It turns out that the deceased man was his grandfather, who gave Aaron a code before his death, hoping that he would follow him. The grandfather thought that Aaron listened to his stories and would understand what was going on, since he was the last descendant of the rabbis. It turns out that Isaac also gave him the golem. This clay creature was specially created to fight the Nazis with the goal of destroying their insane legacy. During his lifetime, Isaac tried to track down the Nazi necromancers, who called themselves the Thule Society, and when he found a lead to them, he realized that they would kill him for it. So he passed the code to Aaron. Sam figures out that Isaac has pointed out the location of the data in the local library, where the main characters go with the golem. Here, one of the Thule attacks them, but they manage to deal with him. With their discovery, they return to Aaron's house and realize that this book records all the trials and inhuman experiments performed on Jews during World War II. Soon, a member of the Thule High Command breaks in and neutralizes the golem with a single phrase. The Winchesters and Aaron find themselves trapped, but the last rabbi manages to turn the tide of battle by hitting the villain. The brothers kill the Nazi, after which Aaron decides to pay his respects to his grandfather and take the inheritance he has been given in the form of the golem and knowledge. Kevin spends days trying to decipher the inscriptions on half of the tablet, and soon succeeds. It turns out that in order to close the gates of hell forever, 3 trials must be passed. The first task is to kill the Hellhound. The Winchesters quickly track down the family that made a deal with the devil 10 years ago. Moreover, it turns out that Crowley, who was still a Crossroads demon at the time, came to them. The main characters don't have time to figure out who exactly made the deal, so they decide to handcuff all the family members and just wait. Meanwhile, Kevin tells them how to see the Hellhound. Dean follows his advice and creates a kind of X-ray glasses, and at the same time, it turns out that it was Ellie who made the deal to save her mother. Dean tracks down the hound but cannot kill it, and then Sam comes to the rescue. This is how he completes the first trial, thereby becoming the chosen one, capable of closing the gates. The Winchesters decide to help police officer James, to whom they owe a debt. Upon arriving in St. Louis, the main characters meet Portia, James's familiar. She is James's assistant, and he has decided to become a witcher and now uses his abilities to catch criminals. James confesses that he has been having dreams in which he kills innocent people, and in the morning, he finds out that they have indeed died. Dean begins to suspect that this is the work of another witch who has put a curse on James. And to prove his theory, he suggests that James chain himself to the bed while they figure out what is going on. Soon Sam learns that his colleagues at the station are hiding something. What's more, it turns out that other warlocks have a grudge against him. James decides to find out everything and creates an astral projection together with the Winchesters. The three of them go to the station and find a whole case against him, with evidence gathered by his best friend Spencer's familiar. James tries to find out why he did it, and it turns out that the assistant was following his master's orders. It turns out that Spencer has disliked him for a long time because he wanted Portia to choose him. And when he found out that they were in a romantic relationship, which is basically forbidden between familiars and witchers, he decided to get rid of him. The Winchesters show up and kill the villain with a spell. After that, James and Portia leave for a safe place where they can start all over again. While Kevin deciphers the second trial on the scrolls, the main characters decide to check out the news about the zombie man. Upon arriving at the police station, they learn that the corpse suddenly got up and left, and then was found dead again. At first, the brothers doubt whether this is their type of case. But then, when he resurrects again right before their eyes, everything becomes clear. The hunters take Shane to a motel and learn that he has been dying every day his entire life. Soon, he is attacked by a woman who is clearly upset that he does not remember her. After the fight, Shane dies of a heart attack, and at that moment, a woman with a child enters the room. She claims to know Shane and his condition. They met several years ago. Over time, feelings developed between them, resulting in her giving birth to a son. She tried to find him for a long time, but to no avail, and eventually gave up. However, everything changed when her son, like Shane, began to die every day. From Sam's descriptions, they learn that they are facing Prometheus, who was cursed by Zeus, and the woman who attacked him earlier is apparently Artemis, Zeus' daughter. Realizing that they need to help the boy somehow, the Winchesters summon Zeus in the hope that he will remove the curse from the child. But the deity deceives everyone, and the main characters fall into a trap. Sam decides to take a risk and tells Artemis that he knows about her feelings for Prometheus and is sure that they are mutual. This news softens her, and she decides to help her beloved. However, the arrow hits Prometheus and kills him, and before he dies, he manages to pierce Zeus with the same arrow. After Zeus's funeral, Sam confesses to his brother that the first trial has taken its toll, and his condition has begun to worsen. Dean cheers his brother up and then calls out to Cass, begging him to watch over him, but the angel does not respond to the call. A series of strange deaths leads the brothers to a small town. Here it turns out that a woman was possessed and constantly digging something, as if looking for something specific. Before her death, she contacted an acquaintance to give her a map, and the brothers went to her in search of answers. Soon, demons descend upon the town, followed by Cass. The angel kills Crowley's minions and tells the Winchesters about Lucifer's hiding places. Cass wants to tell his friends the truth, but Naomi forbids him to do so, and he deceives them, claiming that one of the stashes contains a scroll that can be used to read the tablet. The trio then interrogates the demon, and when Cass realizes that he is about to reveal the true purpose of the search for the stashes to the brothers, he kills him. Following a tip from the demon, the main characters find Meg, who turns out to know where the stashes are. She tells them that Lucifer hid the angel tablet there. Cass pretends that this is the first he's heard of it, but Dean has his doubts. Meg agrees to guide the Winchesters, and the hunters set off. Arriving at an abandoned building, Dean and Cass go in search of the stash, while Meg stays with Sam to guard the perimeter. When Dean retrieves the tablet, Cass demands that he give him God's word. Realizing that something is wrong, Dean tries to find out how he got out of purgatory, but Naomi orders him to kill Dean, and Cass has to obey against his will. He beats his friend half to death, but stops in time. Upon touching the tablet, his control over him seems to disappear, and Cass heals Dean, then takes the tablet and disappears so that the writings do not fall into the hands of demons, angels, or humans. Meanwhile, Crowley tortures Meg on the street and kills her, while the Winchesters manage to escape. While there is still no news about the second test, the hunters decide to deal with the vampires who, apparently, have killed several women. At the police station, the main characters are shown a recording in which Dean recognizes Chrissy. The brothers quickly track her down and learn that she is working with other teenagers to kill vampires on the streets of the city. It soon becomes clear that Victor has taken the teenagers in. The man has given them a roof over their heads and a sense of family, as each of them, including Chrissy, has lost loved ones. However, the Winchesters feel that something doesn't add up in this story, and they turn out to be right. Victor is in cahoots with a local vampire who killed Chrissy's father and her friends, and he did it on Victor's orders. Moreover, he also turned new vampires, setting them on the young hunters. He wanted to train them so that they would have no equals in the future. Upon learning the truth, Chrissy kills his vampire accomplice, and Victor, unable to survive the exposure, shoots himself in the head. Kevin translated the second trial. Now Sam has to lift the soul from hell to heaven. No one knows how to get to hell without dying, so the brothers summon the demon of the crossroads and torture him. As a result, the main characters learn about the traitor Reaper, who is able to take a mortal there and back. It soon becomes clear that he knows them from Bobby, because he was the one who delivered his soul to hell. Sam sets out to rescue Bobby, but immediately ends up in purgatory, from where he must make his way to hell and return exactly 24 hours later. While Sam searches for Bobby and frees him from prison, Crowley learns of the illegal intrusion into his kingdom and kills the Reaper, thereby closing Sam's access to the world of the living. Dean realizes that his brother cannot handle this alone and that he needs an escort. He calls Benny and asks for help. The vampire agrees to die and go to purgatory to save his brother. The fact is that he has never been able to settle down in this world and will be happy if he can help his friend in some way. Dean kills Benny, and soon he finds Sam. The vampire asks him to say goodbye to Dean for him. He distracts the other monsters so that Sam and Bobby can escape. Dean waits for his brother and learns that Benny has decided to stay. The main characters free Bobby's soul and lift it up to heaven, but it hangs in the air because of Crowley. At that moment, Naomi appears and frees the soul from its demonic shackles, hinting that they can trust her. The second test really shook Sam up, and Dean thinks it's best for him to stay at the sanctuary for now. Meanwhile, Charlie sends a message. Turns out she's found a new case and wants to join his investigation. So Dean and Charlie head to the morgue, hoping to see the body of the man whose organs were literally turned into mincemeat. However, pathologist Jennifer refuses, citing the need for an official request from the FBI. In the evening, the brothers break into the morgue anyway, but they don't find the body and learn that it was hastily disposed of. It becomes clear that they are dealing with a djinn, one of whom is the pathologist. She kidnaps Charlie and puts her into a trance. The main characters come to their friend's aid, killing the djinn. Dean falls asleep to save Charlie, and he succeeds. Meanwhile, Sam learns that there were two djinn, and he has to kill the pathologist's son. When the guys come back to their senses, Charlie says goodbye to the main characters and leaves. Soon, the Winchesters receive a message from Kevin, in which the prophet states that he is most likely dead, since they are now watching this recording. Kevin sent them all his notes on the tablet, hoping that the brothers would be able to learn about the third trial. Studying the data, Sam recognizes a symbol and suggests that Metatron, who wrote the tablet, is hiding in the mountains among the Native Americans. The Winchesters set out to find God's scribe and soon find him, but it turns out that Metatron has long since retired and has no idea what is going on in heaven. The main characters try to shame him for his inaction, and it seems to work. Meanwhile, Cass hides from Naomi, hoping that this will protect the tablet. However, Crowley soon finds him. The King of Hell quickly realizes that the angel could not have hidden God's word far away, so he pierces his chest with his hand and takes the tablet from there. Meanwhile, the Winchesters supposedly come to Kevin, having managed to find the second half of the tablet, but the prophet quickly realizes that something is wrong and sends them to a place with a trap for demons. Crowley appears and tries to kill Kevin, but at that moment, Metatron saves the prophet and transports him to the Winchesters. Thus, the main characters learn that the third trial will be to heal a demon. The main characters have never encountered anything like this before, so they decide to study the Men of Letters archives, hoping to find something about healing demons. The main characters discover a video recording in which a priest heals a demon with a rather strange ritual. No further details are given, but fortunately, one of the priests is still alive, and the Winchesters decide to talk to him. The man confirms what the boys have already learned and agrees to help. So the Winchesters learn the details of the ritual and decide to try out their new knowledge on Abaddon. However, the ritual fails, and he escapes. Meanwhile, Cass tries to make things right with Dean, but Dean can't forgive him for losing the tablet, which he was protecting, including from him. At this time, Metatron approaches Cass and suggests trying to close the heavens, assuming that this will help their brothers finally figure everything out and come to an agreement. Cass decides to volunteer and wants to pass the first trial, which is to kill a Nephilim. Crowley calls the Winchesters and declares that he will kill all the people they have saved until they surrender and promise to stop undergoing the trials. The brothers decide to try to save the next victim, but Crowley is more cunning and kills the woman anyway. After a while, the main characters learn that Crowley has chosen Judy as his next victim and decide to agree. They admit defeat, but demand the angel tablet in return. Crowley agrees and comes to the meeting, unaware that he has fallen into a trap. The brothers deliberately lure him out so that he becomes the demon that Sam will cure. Meanwhile, Metatron announces the second trial, according to which Cass must take Cupid's bow. At this moment, Naomi appears and kidnaps Metatron. To find him, Cass asks Dean for help, telling him about his intention to close the gates of heaven. Dean agrees, promising his brother that he will return for the decisive stage of the ritual, and Sam stays with Crowley in the church, beginning preparations for his healing. Soon the demon manages to summon reinforcements, but only Abaddon comes to the church, who has a grudge against him because he himself was aiming to become the king of hell. Sam manages to expel the demon and continue the ritual. Meanwhile, Cass and Dean obtain Cupid's bow and ask Kevin to decipher the third trial for closing heaven. Naomi appears and reveals the truth about Metatron's intentions. It turns out that he had no intention of restoring balance, but only wanted to take revenge on heaven for his expulsion. Everything Cass does at his suggestion will not close the heavens, but will cause thousands of angels to fall to earth. Moreover, to gain their trust, Naomi also tells them about Sam's fate, which she learned from Metatron. It turns out that after completing the ritual, he will die, thus becoming a symbol of unconditional sacrifice. Cass doesn't believe her, but Dean begins to have doubts. He goes to Sam and helps him stop at the last moment, but Cass does otherwise. He returns to heaven and learns from Metatron that Naomi was right, for which he killed her. The angel ties Cass up and takes his grace to complete the spell. Now Cass is an ordinary man who, like the Winchesters, watches from the ground as thousands of angels fall from heaven. This is the end of the 8th season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.